Okay, today is February 21st, 2025. Wait for my weather radio to show the date again instead of flashing check reception. There we go. And it is a cold and dry day. Like the whole week has been ever since Winter Storm Jet, because an Arctic blast followed suit. Currently outside, relative humidity is 40% with a dew point of only 13 degrees. It was worse the past few days. It's starting to get a little bit better, but this dry air is going to linger around until like Sunday, so obviously something has to be done about that. And something has been done about that. As you can see, I do have humidifiers. I have a small army of humidifiers that helps with the dry air during this time of the year because winter can get very cold and dry. And with the low temperatures and the low dew points outside, that conspires to low relative humidity inside. In here, we're currently holding one humidifier going, 73 degrees and 46% relative humidity. Now, yesterday I suffered a casualty. The warmest humidifier that I had sitting right here that you have seen in a few previous videos, unfortunately, has kicked the can. And as you can see, the remains of it are now in the trash. The humidifier has been having problems recently, and I wanted to fix those problems, but I ended up getting the power cord caught in this door while moving it out to the kitchen to clean it, and the tank fell and shattered. So this humidifier can no longer be used. And that is why I've got a new replacement warmest humidifier from Vicks. So we're going to be setting that up in this video, and we're also going to be solving another problem that I've been having with humidifiers, which is mineralized water. As you know, using ultrasonic humidifiers, they do help to humidify the air in a very efficient way, but they're also great at getting white dust everywhere because, well, the water has mineral content in it. Unless you decide to use distilled water, but that's annoying and nobody really wants to waste all of their purified drinking water in humidifiers. So I have a solution for that problem, and it is these demineralization cartridges. So I have a 20 pack here, and it says that one of these should be good for like a month before having to be replaced. So I'm going to be putting these in all of my humidifiers, and hopefully that will fix the issue of all the white dust forming everywhere around ultrasonic humidifiers. And for the warm mist humidifier, that will help to reduce how much I'm going to have to clean it afterwards. The mist will be pure coming out of this, but that mineral content will end up remaining behind inside the actual humidifier itself. And I want to fix that issue, so that is why we're going to be putting some demineralization cartridges in the humidifiers today. So I'm going to go ahead and start by opening this up here. I've got scissors, so hopefully I can, whatever this blue wrapping is, I can just cut right through that. Yeah, it appears to be working. Oh, it's all the way down here. Alright, could just rip that off. I don't know what the blue thing, wrapping thing here is for, but that's off now. I think I opened it upside down, but who cares? Alright, so here is the humidifier. And, well, it looks nice. Let me take off the plastic Looks like I may have to tear through that plastic. Alright, so here we have the base of the humidifier, and here we have the tank. And obviously the tank can just sit on the base like that. And I'm going to go ahead and move this to where I want it to sit. I'm going to take the tank off for a second here. It's going to fall if I leave it there. Alright. And the humidifier base is going to sit here. And well, here's the power cord. I have to go ahead and untie this stupid twisty tie thing here. I can't do that with one hand. Alright. Now of course these things here, they're just to prevent the cord from going all over the place while the thing is in packaging. But I don't need it anymore because, well, this thing's gonna be sitting here now. It's also got a cover on the plug here. Took that off, and now I can plug it in when I'm ready to use it. And doesn't look like I can actually see the... Okay, let me actually rotate this because I want to be able to access the switch. So it's gonna be sitting like more like this, which is fine. I can just move this back here a little bit. That banana's gonna go bad unless I eat it like today, so I'm gonna have to eat that later. But right now it's about setting this thing up and getting it working, because today it is dry. And this humidifier, on slightly more temperate days where it isn't extremely dry outside, this humidifier can hold by itself, but on drier days it isn't quite enough, and I need a warmest humidifier with more output capability. Not to mention the white dust problem with this, but once again today, hopefully I can fix that with the demineralization cartridges. I'm going to be doing the same for the humidifier out in the living room, even though it is a hybrid humidifier, meaning that even though it's ultrasonic, it also has a warm mist capability, so mixed in with the mist being thrown out by the speaker is a little bit of steam, and that helps for a cleaner output, but it also helps for a larger output volume, which is good in very dry conditions. However, it goes through water very quickly, even though it has the largest capacity out of all the humidifiers I have here. So aiming to clean up the mist in all of my humidifiers, and not just this one. This is a brand new humidifier, and to get it started I am going to actually be filling this with filtered water instead, to make sure I can prolong the life of it this time. Alright, out here in the kitchen. So, you should know by now, at least if you have watched the Winter Storm Harlow video journal, that I do have a faucet filter here, and if you flip this little tab down, you can get filtered water out of it. Now the current water is hot in the pipeline, so I'm gonna run the cold water for a few seconds. That way I can flush that out and get cold water in here. Yeah, that's cooling down now. You're supposed to actually fill the tank with cold water since that's slightly cleaner and has less chemicals and mineral content than hot water does. So now I've got cold water in the system. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip the tab down. And I'm going to fill up the tank. How these tanks work is, well, this thing here, you can see there's like a spring on the base, the cap for the tank. And there's even instructions for best performance down here on the bottom. It says, follow all instructions and clean regularly. Use only cool water to fill the tank, because hot water may damage the unit. So that is what we're going to be doing here, using cool water and filtered water. So let's go ahead and take the cap off here. And fill up the tank. I'm going to hold it steady here while it's filling. This is a pretty large tank, so it might take a while. And it also conveniently has a handle here, so when it is filled, I can just carry it back by the handle. We're getting there. It's about like halfway full, and a little bit more actually. I did also recently replace the faucet filter, so I am sure that this water is clean, and you should have seen the green indicator light flashing when I activated it, so that's a sign that it's good. This thing has 3 different distinct statuses, where if it flashes green, it means that your filter is good and you don't have to do anything. You can just, use the filter as is and enjoy clean water. If it flashes yellow, that means you should be prepared to replace it soon because it is reaching the end of its life. These only go for either up to 100 gallons of water or 3 months, whichever happens first. And then when it flashes red, that's telling you that you have to replace the filter. So obviously, since this is flashing green, it is good. The tank is just about full now. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for those last few water drops to get in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and shut the water off. Alright, it overflowed a bit. Let's go ahead and put the cap back on before I try to lift it out. That way I can avoid spilling the water if I don't need to. You always want to be careful not to overfill it, because then, you know, the water might spill out. Now, I don't know if there is any mineral content in here, but just in case there is, I am still going to be throwing a cartridge in. Plus, for future use, I don't want to be using up all the filtered water, because, well, I want to be drinking that filtered water. Of course, here's the humidifier I have out here in the living room. In case you haven't seen it before for some reason, but I have shown it in many of my videos in the past. So, this is what we're working with here, and I did recently clean up both of my ultrasonic humidifiers, this one and the one in my bedroom by Govee. So, hopefully that helps a little bit as well, but I'm still going to be throwing in the cartridges. So I'm going to go ahead and unbox those now, and we're going to get started with those. Alright, so here are the Total Purify Demineralization cartridges. Let's just go ahead and open this up. Looks like I may be able to do this with one hand, actually. Yep, got it. Alright, see. Method of use, you can see there are two distinct colors of cartridges in there. That's because there are two types of cartridges that will work in conjunction with each other. So it says to soak the cartridge in water for 10 minutes and then put it into the water tank of the humidifier. So, oh, that's for something else. I'm gonna go ahead and grab these here. It says to soak in water for 10 minutes and then put in the humidifier. Works with all humidifiers of 0.5 gallon tank or larger. Prevents hard water buildup, filters mineral deposits, eliminate white dust, and remove odor. Alright, let's see if the other side says anything. We have oval shape. So, as I mentioned, there's two different types of cartridges. One is actually for the, hold on, because I can actually reference it here, so let me take a look real quick. So we have two cartridges here. The silver ones in the blue capsule are going to reduce the growth of meld and garm and reduce odor and white dust. And then these mineralized balls will remove impurities in the water and provide clean water. So this one should help with getting rid of all the minerals and stuff. And this one will purify the water. And it says they can be used up to 30 days, and I have a bunch more of them. 10 of each, in fact, so these should last me a while. Anyways, let's go ahead and soak in water for 10 minutes. I'm gonna have to do this 3 different times because I have 3 humidifiers, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with this one in here. So I'm going to get a cup. I'm going to fill this cup up with cold water. I don't need to put too much water in it, just a little bit. And I'm gonna throw these in here. And then just wait 10 minutes. Let me go ahead and set that on my watch here. Alright. Timer. Alright. Go ahead and set that down at 10 minutes. And start. That's this button. Alright. So now these will do their thing. And once that 10 minutes is up, I can empty the water out of this cup and toss these into a humidifier. I'm going to go ahead and be more efficient here. I'm also going to do a 10-minute soaking in here. So I'll just fill this sink up. Drop these in. Alright. The drain is closed. And there we go. Make sure they're not resting right on the drain there. Now I can leave these here. That way I can do two at once. In fact, let me get the cup that I use to fill humidifiers regularly. Let me get that hair out of the water. I don't want that in there. Could go get the cup that I use to fill humidifiers regularly and get the third set on the way. Okay, so here's the cup. And I'm gonna go ahead and get a third set. Put that in here. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Alright. Now they're all soaking in water. So I'm gonna see when the 10 minutes is up, and then I can get these all sorted out and put in the humidifiers in question. I will also, for the time being, be turning down the output on this humidifier. That way, well, one thing, it can stay filled with more water. And, alright, sending me a cleaning reminder, but I just cleaned it last night, so I can just dismiss that. I'll turn it down to level 1. That way it is outputting less mist. That way, you know, it can maintain a decent level of water. And it won't be putting too much mineralized water into the air. Because when it does do that, I notice the white dust forming on the desk in particular here. It also shows up on mainly black plastic objects as well. Like there's a little bit on my Delta 3 Plus over here. It's not really a big deal. And also a little bit here as well, and maybe even some other things that I'm not paying attention to. But just have the output reduced for right now until I can throw those cartridges in. Alright, so we've got a little bit of information on the base here in the meantime. The timer's almost up, but I figured I may as well show you. So we do have a little medicine cup attached to the base here. And we also have some information about the reset light, which will indicate that the humidifier tank needs to be refilled. This is, since there are apparently multiple models of this humidifier, this is the larger of the two. And it has an automatic shutoff and a larger tank, of course. And should be easier to clean, theoretically. But I'm going to make sure I don't have to clean it as much with the demineralization cartridges. Alright, my timer is going off, so let's go ahead and check on the cartridges that I have soaking in water right now. The timer has gone off. so these ones were seconds, so I'm going to be taking them out in a few seconds. We're going to go ahead and start with the ones that I put in the first cup. These ones. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully pour the water out of the cup. I could have just poured these straight into the humidifier, honestly, but oh well. Now I will take the cartridges and I'm going to be placing them in my Go humidifier. And this should demineralize the water. Alright, the cartridges are inserted. Now I'll put the top back on, and hopefully in a matter of minutes that will clean up the water and we should be good to go here. I'll go ahead and get the second set that I put in the bathroom vanity sink here. I'm going to take them out of the water here and open the drain. And these cartridges can go in this humidifier. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right quick. Let's move these out of the way. So I have to be careful here because this one is completely full of water. So I'm going to have to tip it upright, take off the cap, and gently do each capsule one at a time. It looks like it might overflow here just a little bit. Now I can screw the cap back on. Oh, that's not good. So it overflowed it a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and dry that up with a paper towel. So that has 2 of the humidifiers down. Okay, that should be good. And now for the third one. I'm going to take this cup and I'm just going to directly pour it in the capsules in here. So let's go ahead and take the cover off and pour this in. Alright. Now that should hopefully work to demineralize the water in all of my humidifiers, and we're gonna go ahead and get the Vicks one up and running, and I will report any findings I have in a bit. Okay. So now I'm back in here with the tank, and I'm gonna have to put the camera down to insert the tank, so I'll be right back. Alright, I've inserted the tank. It's just gonna be doing that for a few seconds as the water goes into the base. Looks like this may also be a handle. Yeah, it is. Because I think the water actually comes out of here. And this medicine cup is just part of the humidifier. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my Delta 3 Plus That way I can see the wattage when it starts up. So let's go ahead and turn on the inverter here. I'm going to plug this in. Okay. And now let's go ahead, turn this on. And as you can see, we get the green indicator light indicating that it's working. And it is drawing 124 watts. It's not too bad. Let's try the high setting and see if that changes the power draw. Yes, it does. So now it is 256 watts, 255. Not too bad considering the crane humidifier that had its catastrophic failure was rated at 330 watts. I don't know how much this one is rated at. I don't know where it would say that, but even on high it's only drawing 255. I'm gonna leave it on low for now because that's all I really need. And that will draw half the power, so yeah. And we're gonna see how this works. Hopefully it works good. I really like the design. It's got a nice crystal clear tank there. It looks good. Vicks is one of the top dogs when it comes to humidifiers, and a very trusted brand. So hopefully this works good, and I think that I will have satisfaction with this product. Unlike with the stupid crane that is now in the garbage, because that just didn't last even a year. I think it was like, I don't know how long ago I got it, but it was sometime in like either late fall of 2023 or during the winter last year. So this thing barely lasted a year and it failed on me. What happened is, well, the water, since this thing works with reed switches, which are actuated by magnets, the water corroded one of the magnets that is part of the mist cage here. Yeah, this thing requires a lot of components in order to run, which, you know, obviously anything is susceptible to failure after a long enough runtime, so that's not very good. Especially if you're going to be using magnets and metal components when it's a water-based product. Not a very good design, in my opinion. And so far, it doesn't seem like any of that is necessary when it comes to this humidifier. I think it only has a float switch and that's all. So, hopefully this one will work a lot better than that one did, considering it had a bunch of reed switches and magnets involved in its design. And recently the float switch started failing on that, where it would register empty when there was still plenty of water in the tank. So I wanted to try and fix that, and that's when the catastrophe happened yesterday, where the tank fell off the humidifier and shattered and spilled water all over the hallway. I can show you where. So this entire section here was completely inundated with water yesterday after the tank had fallen. And even in here, there may still be a little bit of... Actually, it may have dried up by now, but some of the water got in here as well. It was a disaster. So obviously I had to fix that by getting a new humidifier. And I had to put the crane one out of its misery. It looks like the water, I don't know, probably will be easiest to observe the effects of those capsules in this humidifier in particular, because not only the tank is clear and you can actually see inside of it, but this one also has a light. So it's got the best of both worlds there, so even at night I'll be able to witness what's going on. The tank is a lot clearer on the Vicks humidifier. I'm sure that this one was clearer at some point, but over time, you know, it is clouded up over usage. But this one will be one of the easiest ones to see the effects of those capsules. The Vicks one will also be very easy. But with the Govee humidifier, the ultrasonic one in my bedroom, I don't think I'm going to be able to see the effects pretty easily because the tank on that one is not transparent. Well, it's translucent, given that it's also got a light inside of it. An RGB light on the base, in fact. This is starting to go. So yeah, you can see if I get in front of it here. The humidifier is indeed lighting up, because it does have an RGB light in the base. However, the tank is frosted plastic, not clear plastic, so I cannot actually see inside the tank. I can only really judge the water level based on where there's a slight difference in the shading. Other than that, you can't actually see if there's any objects in the tank or whatnot, because it's not clear plastic. So this appears to be working good so far. It's just gotten started, but I can already see some steam coming out of it that looks like it's showing up on camera. It looks like this is working good. There are some things on the bottom here. It just has a couple of labels for instructions and warnings and whatnot. It tells you the function of the reset light, where it says turn the power switch to the off position, unplug the humidifier, allow for the humidifier to fully cool for about 15 minutes, and remove and refill the water tank and operate as usual. And then over here it's got guidelines on the relative humidity, where it says exceeding a 60% humidity level can cause condensation around the unit, on walls and surfaces. If you notice this, open a door and or turn your humidifier down or off. Hopefully I won't be pushing the humidity too high in here. 40 to 60% actually happens to be the exact range that I have this operating at. I have it set to turn itself on at 40% and off at 60%. For the living room, I also have automation set up. I can show you how I've got those set up. I think I can turn these off now. I'm not using the area anymore. So this humidifier does have the physical buttons on it, but it also is remote controlled. I should probably have brought something to control it with. I don't actually know where the original remote is. And the box is probably buried among my things. However, I did save copies of the remote and other things, so I've got the remote saved in my flipper. So let's see, it's under the humidifiers folder and it's called EC humidifier, and this here is the remote for that humidifier. And now if I go out and actually send it some commands. Let's say, let's do the light. You can see that it responds, so this humidifier is indeed controlled remotely, because it did come with a remote. It does have an infrared sensor in it, and it can discern infrared commands that are sent to it. So, with that being said, I'm able to automate this thing. It looks like the capsules are kind of blocking the light. It's not very good, but I'm not going to bother to move them around right now. It is what it is. It's just the light is just a visual thing. It's not going to affect the functionality at all. I'm just going to leave it. So how I automate the humidifier is I've got the SwitchBot Hub 2 here, which once again has infrared capabilities, and you can add remotes to this thing through the SwitchBot app, and you can automate infrared appliances using the hub here. And since it's got a temperature and humidity sensor included in it as well, I figured that this would be the perfect thing to do to have an automatic humidifier out here. This thing also has a light sensor, and it does adjust the brightness on its own based on the ambient lighting. So I just shaded the light coming from the windows here, and that caused it to reduce the brightness. But that's off topic. The topic here is how it automates the humidifier. Right now the humidity is extremely low in here because the stupid air vents are on. I have to figure out how to force those to turn off. I'm doing my best to maintain comfortable conditions, but whenever those things are on, that goes quite literally out the window because the air gets forced outside. But anyways, I have different set points on this compared to in my bedroom because, well, my bedroom's a more controlled environment, and at the same time I'm also asking a lot more out of this because it has to humidify a much larger area. So the set points for this one are 30% and 45% rather than 40 and 60. So it turns on at 30% and off at 45%. And the automations are carried out through the hub here. So when the hub detects that the humidity goes lower than 30%, I have a series of remote commands hooked up to that will be sent to the humidifier to activate it. And that is to hit the mist button 3 times, which will cycle through the mist levels until it gets to the maximum 1. Since this one has 3 mist levels. And then when the humidity goes over 45%, it hits the humidity button in the remote, which is going to set this thing to auto mode. And because the sensors in this are not designed particularly well, doing that is usually enough to get this thing to turn off without fully shutting down. Basically, the fan will continue to run and the humidifier doesn't actually power down, but it doesn't output mist anymore as long as it's satisfied on this thing here. And that happens when the humidity, according to the hub, goes over 45%. And that will pretty much stop the mist output from this. Occasionally, this sensor will actually go low enough since the auto mode is set to 50% here. Occasionally it will go low enough that it starts to throw some mist out again for a few seconds, but it will quickly re-trigger the condition to turn the mist output off. So it's actually a pretty good way to balance the output of the humidifier here and automate it. Because sometimes the automations can re-trigger if there are some anomalies, because this isn't a perfect method of controlling the conditions in here. So using the on and off button to automate this is not a good idea. And I have foolproof automations set up for it instead. And yeah, even as the humidity does start going back down to 30% when this is still in auto mode, as I mentioned, it's going to occasionally put mist out for a few seconds when it's triggered to turn on according to the sensors in the humidifier itself. But once it does go back down to 30%, it will go back to manual mode, and it will, as it's doing right now, have a constant mist output no matter what the sensors are reading. And the sensors are not great in this humidifier, and recently have been exhibiting weird behavior, sometimes going up like way high. The temperature sensor reading like 190 something degrees Fahrenheit, and the humidity sensor, because the humidifier tends to throw the mist directly back on itself, would register a higher humidity level than it actually is in here. But for some reason right now it appears we're not having those issues. The temperature is still reading a bit high, but that's probably because there's warm water in there and the heating element inside the humidifier is on. But it actually has the humidity correct for some reason right now. I don't really trust internal sensors on devices because in a case like this where the humidifier throws the mist back on itself, the output of the device can affect the readings of the sensors, and that is why I much prefer using external sensors to carry out automations on these things, because the internal sensors are not designed well, and being that they are physically connected to the appliance in question, their output is going to be off because of the device's output. So that is why I have automations set up through this thing, and I have a sensor in my room that I use to carry out automations in there. And I do that instead of relying on the sensors inside the devices themselves, because an external sensor can actually get accurate ambient readings. As you can see here, 72 degrees and 23% relative humidity. Whereas this thing is reading 77, and it says low because, well, it's lower than 30% relative humidity, but doesn't actually tell you what the humidity is, if it's less than 30% or higher than 70%. And, well, of course the readings are still not accurate on this, but they are a lot closer than they have been recently, which is kind of odd. It's like the sensor magically fixed itself, but you know, the sensor in this has been acting up. Not a big deal because the humidifier still works fine. It does what I need it to do, you know, it still outputs mist and it still works fine. Everything else works about it. It's just the sensors are not great in it, and well, that's not a big problem because I have automations hooked up through the hub. But yeah, that's my little rant, and that's how I set up automations for this thing. The Govee humidifier in my bedroom, the automations are a lot simpler because I can, you know, since I also have a Govee sensor in here, I can just do a direct back and forth between the sensor and the humidifier, which is a lot simpler. The humidity actually went back down to 40. Well, it's 41 now. But this is also a Govee sensor, so it can talk directly to the humidifier through Govee servers or whatever and carry out the automations as necessary. The humidifier will turn on when this reads less than 40% and turn off when this reads higher than 60%, and I can configure all of that in the Govee amp between the two devices, which gives me a lot more control, and that's good. The humidifier, this one actually does not have an internal sensor, so some of them do, but this one in particular does not, so that's how I set up the automation in here. But that is all I have got for this video. It looks like this humidifier is working, and it's still drawing 124 watts, 25, fluctuating a little bit. That is all I've got for this video. That is resolving the impurified water problem, the mineralized water problem, demineralizing the water in my humidifiers, getting a new warm mist humidifier to replace one that is now out of service for good. And looks like everything is working good here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.